Cha-cha-cha. Back at it again with the Gemini season, huh, Heather?
Yes.
And just and still so light and still
Right?
still so fluffy.
No.
Definitely not in the Gemini throes. Ay,
No.
ay, ay.
What the fuck? Like
Life's funny sometimes, isn't it, Heather? Like we just oh, the energy, folks. The energy, folks. How are we feeling? How are we feeling in the Gemini energy? Like, let us know. Okay. Message, DM us on Instagram, text one of us, send a letter. It's Gemini season after all. Write a little something out. It's just there's a lot in the air. There's a lot to think about in the air, Heather. Huh?
Yeah. Molly McCord released
What's
a
that bitch
video.
saying?
She released a video that was just going over the energetics of June, and her first opening statement is something like, the energies of June are about like internally processing all the emotions from the eclipses. And I'm like, bitch, we're in Gemini season. Like, we're still processing emotions from eclipse season. Like, and now that I'm like more thoroughly in Gemini season, I'm like, well, she's not wrong. Like, I do feel that.
Like,
but I was not
Molly.
expecting this. I was ready to be light and fun and breezy.
No, yeah, it's just so funny. Folks, if you're just now tuning in, if it's your first time, if it's your last time, if it's your forever time, real quick before we get any further, Heather Cunningham, folks, the astrology genius, goddess, queen, feeling her feelings, talking her shit. It's Gemini season, Heather. Please, like, we're gonna get to it. And then I'm over here just copying Heather. I'm Miranda Lensky. But no, like it is just so funny. As soon as we jumped on to record, Heather and I like to normally we do a little catch up. We'll have a little just like how's your week been, what's going on. And we both came in today with very similar, like I almost felt guilty, Heather. Like it almost like, I don't know if you experienced this in therapy, but if I just had a really good session last week, I almost will be upset going into next week because I've, which is insane. It's my therapist.
Like, right. I feel the same way though.
There's almost like a performance aspect need of like, no, I'm going to prove that I'm healthy. And like, which is so silly because there's never a part in this human experience, right? We talked about this a little bit last episode where you're ever going to be perfect or where you're never not, chasing, I think something. And again, that's just all part of growth. And I don't think we as human beings ever get to a place where we're done growing, mentally, physically, emotionally, like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously there's always new growths. There's always new seasons, yada, yada. And I just think it's so funny that, yes, we initially hit that Gemini season. It's very celebratory and it felt really light. And like we're in an air time now. It's June. Things are getting warmer.
Yeah.
But just like all the elements, there's some crevices about it we don't like. Like, and that's, it's just so funny to be reminded. And I almost felt guilty coming on to record with you today because I was like, I don't feel as light as I did earlier.
Literally, me too.
And it's such a weird phenomenon, but we have to remember that just because you don't feel 100% doesn't mean it's maybe like if I'm not feeling 100%, Heather, I want to come talk to you more. Like that's my clue that I'm like, oh, I need to get on the pod with Heather immediately then and record because that shit's gonna like make me feel better. And it is so funny because I've like kind of spent today all alone. You're like the first real human I've like talked to, and it's only like 3 p.m. But besides like texting some homies, like you're the first person I'm having like a conversation with today. Crazy how good that feels. Like just crazy how some like human interaction. Which is, again, another incredible reminder of Gemini season of like when you're feeling the throes of it and you're alone and you're processing a lot, like it's so nice to be reminded that there's homies going through similar shit. Like you're never alone. You're never alone. And like friendship, communication, getting that human to human like interaction and like understanding that like, the relatability of what it is to be human. Is that not super fucking Gemini in the end? Like it's just so funny that we're like, what's going on? It's Gemini season. We were supposed to be feeling lighter for this week, but like no, I find that just like Gemini can have that like too faces. We maybe just got a little tricked by Gemini's lighterness, and now Gemini's like, oh, but we have things to think about. Don't forget.
Yeah.
I said, Gemini, we're not in Pisces. What are you doing?
No, that's a really good point.
It's all part of it. How are you been? How have you been, Heather, for this? I know that I've kind of said my piece. And again, it's not like anything bad happened or that
literally
like the energy just feels a little warped, or like there's like I can just feel the dip in the energy in a way that I'm like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to pay attention to this now. And I think I was just a little blindsided or caught off guard. And the universe loves doing that.
I know, she does.
When you think you have her figured out, right?
Literally.
Go ahead, Heather, please. Sorry.
No, I've been feeling guilty too, like, because I feel like I have total stability right now. You know, I really have
be guilty about that, Heather. Just kidding.
No, I mean, like, I actually don't really have a reason to be like upset about anything, but I think that it's that stagnation. It's that, like, I don't know. Once I reach that point of stability, I'm like, okay, well, what is my goal now? Like, how am I growing? And Gemini, I think, needs so much stimulation. And I literally didn't realize this until I talked to you before we started recording. But like, I think that is it. And it so does relate to Gemini of just like needing something to be curious about, needing something to.
It's like you said, respectfully, as someone with ADHD, if we're gonna kind of like assign a mental actually ADHD it's a disorder. It's not considered a mental disease. It's considered a mental disorder. Whatever, regardless.
Yeah.
And then I was like, bitch, why do I gotta work then? I got a disorder. So I can't work. Gotta go. Bye. But sure, no, ADHD people still have to give back to society, I guess. But like when we talked about Gemini, when we made that joke about Gemini, out of all the signs, is kind of the ADHD sign.
Yes.
I even told you, Heather, before I even like remembered that we've said that before, that I was like, I can't explain it, but my ADHD just feels like it's at an all-time, it's peaking weirdly, like in a not a great way for me, but I've got a lot on my mind. I'm doing a lot of spiraling. I'm probably not getting enough me time in nature. And again, we talked about that Gemini balance, right? Of like, you got to do a little bit of both. And while I do think so much of the human experience is social, there's something really kind of dark and twisted about it in the way that, like, you know how they always say, like, you're born alone and you die alone?
Yeah.
Like, there is something also very lonely to the human experience that I think we are kind of supposed to embrace and think of. It's not like I don't mean lonely in a sad way. I just do mean, like, I do think that part of being human is alone time with yourself.
Yeah.
Spending alone time with yourself.
Yeah.
The same way you would a friend, going on like a date in the park with a friend, or even like a romantic date with a partner. Like, I think honestly, as we've kind of talked more, and this was already a little bit on my mind, but part of me was like, oh, I don't know if Miranda is having enough quality time with Miranda.
Yeah.
And I've been really putting like, and I think that I honestly, more recently, I'm like, cause I've been having a really, it's Gemini season. I'm getting out there. I'm socializing. I just had a girly pop over last night to hang too. Like, was really going out of my way to have some special alone time with the friends and the homies, which I always love doing. But I think, and I don't just mean being alone in my apartment. I think this is the issue. I will sometimes consider alone time just hanging out when I have the apartment to myself and just kind of like watching something, or I'm on my phone and I'm doing the apps. And like, I think maybe Miranda wants to be taken a little more seriously, and she wants to wants me to take her out. It's just it's just interesting. And I think
Miranda needs to be wined and dined,
as does Heather. As does everyone's little inner child and your current self. Like, and we talked about this little, or with what Molly said too about this being like, what eclipse season is she referencing? Sorry, I meant to ask that earlier.
Yeah. The first eclipses of this year, we had the Aries solar eclipse and then the Scorpio lunar eclipse, right back to back. So yeah, that's what she's referring to.
Okay, because like, and correct me if I'm wrong too, like when we have like these big eclipses like that, when we're in that energy presently, like, part of me is like maybe we're just now getting to the we're getting to the place where we think and act on it a little more.
It's the first air moment after the eclipses. So it's like, okay. Yeah, whether we're even conscious of it or not, our brain is maybe processing it in a way that it hasn't been able to yet.
When you're experiencing the eclipse, you can't do it all in that moment, right?
Totally.
And so that is just really interesting that she brought it back to that, because that also would explain sort of the blindsided energy we're both currently feeling. I'm sure other listeners are currently feeling, but like it really sort of like shines a little more light and understanding on like, oh, so even though like we're not in a current place of stopping, reflecting, and maybe experiencing these eclipses, we're in a place where we kind of can now internally look back on that moment. It's just like, and it's like air gets the rep for like not being emotional in the moment,
right?
And not processing their feelings all the time. Like, I think air can, and then it's like, I have so many air friends who will later be like, oh yeah, I just didn't realize at the time. It took like a couple months for me to see that and understand that. And I'm like, wow, what's it like to not experience it all, the processing, like in the moment, because as someone with water, I think that's exactly what happens. Like my water's like, oh, we're feeling, and now we're processing, and now now I'm thinking of the future, even about it. Like I'm even when I'm not processed fully, I'm thinking about being processed fully and like what that looks like. It's whereas like air, I'm like, so y'all really kind of you're able to compartmentalize in the moment, let the experience just be the experience, and then feel it later. Like again, it's wild. It's not that air and fire and earth don't feel things
for sure,
just like water does. It's the processing and the way in which it unfolds. And honestly, I think there's something a little beautiful in that. If I could compartmentalize for shit, I would. But like it's just interesting. As we are talking, I'm like realizing, honestly, this kind of is very air to me. Very air, that we're all of a sudden in the middle of air, and now we're feeling something from like a month or two ago. Well, it's air season.
No, absolutely. It makes me nervous though for Cancer season. And I've been thinking a lot about breaking up the whole zodiac year within these 3 chunks, of fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, air, water. And Molly also talks about how like the process of that a lot, and how water is always like a death in a way. Like water is always like an ending, and then fire is the new life. And so, I've been thinking about it in those terms a lot more. Like shit we dealt with, especially in like the Aries solar eclipse, is going to have this gestation and this like life to it, and then this like ultimate death in Cancer. And I guess that looks different for everyone, but it's interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
My brain fog has been at an all-time high. I'm thinking, and I can feel myself not being comfortable with the stagnant. And to me, that is just screaming air. And it's a time to kind of look inward for myself a little bit, and kind of like next step sort of thing. And also like not repeating past mistakes. Like that's really interesting, Heather. Sorry, you're making me think.
No, yeah. And I will say, like,
I gotta go to the bathroom. What the fuck? I'm having an existential crisis over here, Heather. Cut the recording.
Well, I will say, like, and they say that this is, what you should be doing during Gemini season. Like, it brings me a lot of joy to talk to you about this stuff. And it's like, I'm not in the mood necessarily to like cry on the couch to my friends, but I am in the mood to like, in a detached air sign way, talk about this shit and like ask my friends, like, what do you think about my issues? And like, just like sort of figure shit out in a mental way. But then it does bring up emotion sometimes, because I'm a watery bitch.
She's a watery bitch, y'all. She gets that from me. It has been, it's interesting. And as someone too, Heather, because you have what am I trying to say? Oh wait, do you have Gemini placements at all?
I don't, but I feel a very strong connection to Gemini because I have a very strong 3rd house. So Gemini's house in my chart is a huge game player. I have Jupiter there opposite my moon, and like I feel it in that sense. But no, I wish I had Gemini. My mom and my sister
That's right. You
And
have said that.
Christian and Jake all have Gemini rising. So it feels like the people who have been like my family in my life have always like they have Gemini rising. It's really crazy. But anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, and you're an Aquarius. And again, we've talked about this too. Like being a certain element, I think always when you're in that element, you're a little more like in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Not comfort zone, but like, because I don't know, that was one of the hardest Pisces seasons of my life. In a beautiful way that
sometimes,
I like look
Aquarius
back on fondly.
Yeah.
Right. And like I really but in the moment I was kind of like, all right, I'm drowning. Like, that was a big old wave, and she's still like, I'm still feeling it. She slammed me into the coral reef head first. No, I'm just kidding. But like, it is like, part of me was also, as someone with Gemini moon, was also sort of like, interesting that you're feeling all these weird feelings, and we're in like the season that your moon's in, and that's like socially and outwardly, that's what I was saying. Like, I'm not like, it's not like anything bad happened. I'm having some mixture of feelings inside that I can't put my finger on. And like, there's some stuff being stirred up. And part of me is also like, ooh, is that just maybe your moon acting up? Because the sun's like really honing in on it right now too.
Right. Well,
regardless, it's a message.
Yes, well,
listen.
The sun is literally shining light on your moon placement, bringing consciousness to whatever your moon is dealing with. So yeah, that makes so much sense. Like, I can't believe I didn't think about it that way at the start of our recording. Like, yeah, the Gemini sun is literally illuminating your moon right now. And they say that's like a time where you're forced to have like more awareness over what's happening inside.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Listeners, please let us know if you feel the same. It's Gemini season. We need to know we're not alone. No, but it just goes to like, we talked about this on the last podcast too. I feel like I've been doing great in the getting out there and socializing and hanging aspect. But maybe my moon is like, bitch, when are you going to talk to us? Like my moon's like, oh, so you can go have conversations with all your little friends. When are you going to look in the mirror, bitch? We have some shit to discuss. And like, yeah, it's really, that shit won't ever quiet down. There's something you have to look into. The magnifying glass will only get bigger. It will never go away. We can try so hard in our Gemini ways and other ways to push things, I think, to the side, or like, I'm not ready to look at that right now. Right. Like that sort of harder work.
Yeah.
But it's so important. And it's truly like, what am I trying to say? But like, just if you, without being too cliche, like the other day I was repotting my plants, and it's like, there was, some of the leaves on my plants, like I was just giving them full baths. I was cleaning them out. And then it's like, what you're supposed to do is also like go through and trim off any dead leaves. And I always get a little like insecure when I see a dead leaf on my plant, because I'm like, well, she's thriving. What happened to this guy? And then like, but the whole point is that, and like, you want to save your plant, right? And so anytime there's like a dead leaf, I'm like, oh, like what's not, there's an imperfect little blemish here. Like, as a mother of these plants, what did I do? What was my responsibility? Like, to not keep them light. And it's like, there's parts of ourselves, yes, that are maybe harder to look at or harder to accept. And it's like, but when I really sat there as I'm replanting the plant, I had to give it a whole brush through to make sure I wasn't missing any dead leaves, because the whole point is that you're supposed to snip dead leaves. So because otherwise it'll attract bugs. Bugs will love to go after a plant that they think is like decaying, or like it looks like their homies have already been to. So dead plants can sometimes attract more bugs, and it can like spread. And there was something beautiful about like giving all my plants new little pots, right? And I added, so like they're still in their old soil, but now there's a mixture of some new fresh soil at the base and around the sides for them, for their roots to continue to grow. Like, so even though I had to like, trim them back and like had to kind of reroot the whole fucking plant, I was putting it into it was very symbolic of kind of like what I think I need to do for myself, like, I think what we all have to do to ourselves, right? It's like, my plants were fine. There was a couple of bad, but I want them to grow. I don't want my plants to like just stay there like that. Again, I'm not this addicted to the plants growing, but like, I more just meant like, oh, they're good right here and they can stay like this, but that's going to stunt their growth. Let me trim them back, give them some fresh water, give them some fresh soil, let them have a bigger pot. and there'll be happier plants in my house. And by seeing my happier plants, I'll be happy. Like, and then again, abundance, bitch. Like we are plants. Like we're literally plants.
We
truly.
are.
You haven't gotten outside today. You got to. I'm talking directly to myself. But like, it is so funny how I think I saw a TikTok that was like, we really are just like plants, and we forget that we need photosynthesis. Like you get out in the sun and all of a sudden you're like, and like, but yeah, if it was just very symbolic of like, am I looking at do I need, like, what roots of mine do I need to get rid of that maybe are like, are moldy or don't look as good? What leaves am I letting stay on that I maybe need to cut just for some, like, it's a beautiful thing. It's
Holy
a beautiful,
shit.
like, sorry,
Miranda,
you know me and my little visuals.
You are a writer and a poet, and like you always astound me with this shit. Like
I'm like, blah. Anyways, I got hammered at Paramore the other night. Thank you for saying that, Heather. No. God. I really mean I was saying I like couldn't articulate it fully. I was like, oh my God, land the plane, bitch. Where are we going with the roots and the trimming? But like,
that was so amazing. And I love plant metaphors too. And like, because we are, and because Liz Green always. I've heard there's like the acorn. Oh God, I'm gonna butcher it. I shouldn't even try. But there's this
falling
like there's
like acorns have to fall because they plant. Acorns are seeds for trees, right?
Right. And it's like
same with like pine cones.
They talk about it when it comes to like soul purpose shit. Like I think Carl Jung like quotes this as well. Like that the acorn doesn't wonder what it's supposed to become. It just is.
Falls,
and then it is. And then it becomes what it's supposed to be.
Acorn tree or whatever.
And and like life can, based on the environment, based on how much sunlight and whatever, all these variables and factors, it can, have different changes and nuances and be different from another tree, but it still knows what it's growing into, and that's never going to change. Or you know what I mean?
The acorn isn't sitting on the ground after it's fallen from the tree like, what's going to happen?
Right.
Literally, what's going to happen next?
Right.
Unless a squirrel comes by, fucks all that up. No. Wait. But no, like, it's like the acorn accepts the fall. It accepts the stagnant, like,
it just waits
like the
patiently.
Acorn falls and it's patient, and then it becomes, and then it's just like, it's like a trusting the process thing. I'm not sure if that's what you're trying to say.
No,
but
I think it is. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm just like
yeah. No, I totally hear you. I want to say pine cones do the same thing, actually. Like they fall, and it's like for every pine cone, that's like a whole nother tree. I could totally be wrong. But it's like, it is. There's a beautiful thing with nature, and in like June in general, right? Like we're no longer kind of like in the shift of spring. We're in spring and on our way to summer. And there's an energy with that as well. Like even when Molly was talking about like the June like energy in general, I think there's something so beautiful about like spring, literally. And right now we're reflecting back into maybe a darker time or colder time, right? A time that where the sun wasn't out. And that's also when oh my God, I'm going to get symbolic again.
Yes, do it.
When the sun comes out and stays out longer, right? The sun touches more things. And there's a shift after, like, once we're no longer in the winter and time springs forward and all that or whatever, there's like a literal shift, like where the sun hit at certain times of the day is no longer. And then it's out longer and it stretches and reaches more, right? Of course, we can't always see the process or see in the dark, or like there are just like there was a lot of work. And it's not to say that right now the weird things you're feeling are mean you're going to spiral back into like a darker, deeper whatever. But like symbolically, like this past eclipse season is sort of the winter, no? And then like, but the whole point is that because the sun is hitting different and it's just allowed to be out longer now, and we've literally changed like the energy, but also the environment, because like we have hours and hours more of sun or whatever it is, like there's more things that you can see now from the winter that you maybe couldn't see during winter, right?
Yeah.
I mean all that symbolically too, to kind of be like, it is, because I know that when we first started, even just when we first started talking, I was like, what the fuck? It's air, give us a break. But it's like, you can't always tolerate the thing you're trying to process as you're experiencing it. A process, that's exactly what it is. It's a process. It's not an over the night thing. It's not a like, And so this is you're blowing my mind, Heather. You really are. Because now I'm kind of like, and you know what? We're in this springy June time and we're in like this lighter Gemini air. But also because of that, we can maybe now look and see where the sun's hitting where we couldn't see it before.
Shed
And
light
it's like,
on the darkness.
Yes.
Yes.
And like you can realize like, not all the weeds were cleared up, or like not
Right.
all the bad leaves were like trimmed off. Like, let me make sure I don't miss that spot. I don't know. It's just that's really interesting. It also makes me want to look back on like my journal entries and stuff from
this time last year, and
and kind of like see what was going on and what I was feeling, and like symbolically where I'm heading. That's just really
I know.
Well, you said it was from this past Aries season, right?
Yes.
Not a year ago.
No, not a year ago.
Earlier this year.
Just a few months ago.
Yeah.
I'm
loving this. Heather.
I know. I'm loving this too. But
listeners, tune out. Me and Heather, we're just gonna be talking to each other from now on.
Oh my God. No, but the other thing that I wanted to mention that I think is interesting is that like Gemini is a mutable sign. So there's something about it being a transitional energy. Which is interesting because there's like all these different cycles within astrology. So there's like the fire, earth, air, water being an ending that brings us into a new beginning. But then there's the the cardinal fixed mutable cycle that happens too, where every 3 signs it's like a new start, follow through, and then a transition. So like Gemini is mutable, so it's transitional, but it's also the 3rd part of a 4-part cycle. Am I making sense?
Can you say that one more time, Heather? Or like when you mean it's the 3rd part of a 4-part cycle.
So there's the cycle.
Just repeat?
Yeah.
Like,
so there's
say everything you just said.
No, I get it. As I was saying it, I was like, this is probably like too confusing. But okay, there's the element cycle, right? Of fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, air, water. Happens 3 times throughout the year.
Yes.
To make up the 12 signs.
I see. Yes. And those are
then
the 4.
There's there's the cardinal fixed mutable, where cardinal is always a start, and it's the start of a new weather season. So cardinal's a new start, fixed is a follow through, mutable is a transition. Gemini, what we're in right now, is in the one sense a transition into something new. In another sense, like it's the 3rd part of the 4th.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes. I'm now. I was like kind of with you, but I was like, for me and the dummies. Respectfully.
Yeah.
The astrological dummies. That's like, and what you were saying too, like spring as a season, it's one of my favorites, but it still feels not quite as dominant and long as summer, and not also quite as dominant and long as winter can be. Spring and fall sometimes are like, that's just it. They're still seasons, but they're transitional, it feels like. And they're both of those I love. I love both of those seasons so much, which is why it like sucks when they're transitional. But I think that's also why you're so like when they're here. Just saying from like an actual, like without the symbolism, like just when you're in seasons. So it's extra interesting to me, again, how a lot of astrology will end up aligning with this shit, because it feels like even as a season right now, we're in what's a transitional season. Spring into like it's what spring is like, like you're not quite there, and then it's about to be a steady summer, like so no wonder there's just like sorry, keep going, Heather.
No, that's interesting. No, it makes me think too, like summer is the hottest, winter's the coldest, like the lightest and the darkest. Like it makes sense that those are like the stars.
Interesting. Really interesting.
Doesn't it just remind
you
that we're all one with nature, that we're all just like
man, does it well, also right now, I don't know if you've like heard about this, even in New York, like the pollen is insane, and it's worse and worse every year, because way back when they were putting trees in the city, they planted all these like male trees, because specifically male trees are easier to clean up, like they don't have as many droppings.
Trees have genders?
I didn't know this either, Heather, and I swear I went to school. There's just so much they stuff our little brains with, and whatever. It was public
so much
school.
they don't tell us.
And then so much that, yeah, I'm sure someone told me, and I was like, well, I gotta study for fucking calc, pre-calc.
Right.
So I can't obtain this really important information that I should just know as a human being. Gotta study for something I'm
Who
never
knows
gonna
what's
do
happening
after
to my
this class.
body when I get a period, but
Jesus,
I guess they
yes.
did teach us that, but it doesn't feel like it. Anyway.
They don't teach us shit, Heather.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, not mad at you. But like, yeah, so I didn't really know this was a thing either. But in the city, they went and planted a bunch of male trees because like female trees have more droppings. I believe in order to be a female tree, you have to have like seeds. Oh no,
That would make sense.
the listeners will tell me. The listeners will let us know.
They'll tell
Corrections
us.
Corner next week. Alex. We talked to her like she's in the room and she's checking our facts as we go.
Producer Alex.
Producer Alex. But yeah, it's a thing that people have known about the city. There's all these male trees, and all the male trees produce pollen. And like the whole idea is that the female trees absorb the pollen so that they can grow the things that, like the fruits and the veggies or whatever, that are supposed to come off their trees, right? And so like every year we have a buildup on pollen because there's not enough, they didn't plant enough female trees to take like the pollen away. And like, so every year people in New York are like, our fucking sinuses, like it's so engraved. And like, is that not also another incredible symbolism, y'all?
Yeah.
You gotta make sure you're planting some female trees. And that also just like universally make sure you're having feminine energy. Oh, that's important.
We need balance.
No, again, it's just such a, and it's so funny because like, yeah, my allergies have never been worse. And I'm in this Gemini like balancey time. And like, I think it is something the city is working on, I want to say. Like they're slowly but surely planting more female trees. It's like, I don't think they didn't know about it back in the day like they know now. Yeah, this was like, years ago, but it's just, it's all interesting. It's all just way too interesting, if I'm being honest.
Wow, maybe my Gemini course of study is going to be like botany. This is like very interesting.
No, it really is. And like, there's something it's called too. It's like called like planting.
Yeah, I feel like there's another
sexism,
word.
Tree sexism. It has like a word. Sexism is in the phrase because it's like, y'all planted all these fucking male trees because they're way easier to clean up, and now we all can't breathe. So it's like, fucking put some females out there. Again, it all comes back to sexism.
Right. This is blowing my mind.
It's just, yeah. Anyways, but like, again, it does just, every start of a new season always feels like that's a really strong punch. Yeah. And then, but like we said, we're ending every season on the new moon of the sun sign we were just in.
Right.
So
there's
like,
that cycle too.
It's just, I'm really interested to see how the Gemini new moon towards the end of the season takes us into Cancer, and like,
yeah, exactly.
And then we're really in summer. It's just something to think about, something to look forward to. But for right now, the ebbs and flows are part of it, baby.
Totally.
I'm also just feeling so much better talking to you about it, Heather. Sorry.
No, literally same, which is so very Gemini. But yeah, as we're recording this a bit earlier than we normally would. And so tomorrow night is the Sagittarius full moon that literally
like actually tomorrow, Heather?
Literally tomorrow night.
Like you're not talking about next week tomorrow night.
No. I'm talking about, as we're recording this in real life, tomorrow. The third. Is the full moon in Sagittarius. And I subscribe to a lot of different astrology newsletters and stuff, and every horoscope that I've read about this full moon is like, well, not every, I will say Molly McCord does highlight that you can go like a little bit too far in that Jupiterian way, or Sagittarius can be a little bit too optimistic to a fault and then have to like come down to earth. But almost everyone is like, wow, what an abundant, positive, optimistic full moon. Like the energy should really feel lighter and optimistic, and like you know your path and all that. And I'm like, God damn it, I hope so.
And there's still Gemini season left. And thank you so much for reminding me that we're going into a full moon too, because that energy.
Well, also that makes sense, right? Yeah, because it's the culmination of an emotional process we've been dealing with.
Did you say new moon or full moon? I'm sorry.
Full moon.
We are going into a full moon.
Full moon.
Thank you. Because as we love to talk about, it's a checkpoint. It's always like a checkpoint too with the full moon. So I'm also like, thank you for reminding me of that, because a lot of this energy does feel like check-in, like a check-in energy.
Totally.
And they talk about this, but people in spirituality and astrology talk about this a lot, that like full moon energy isn't just the night it's there. It's like there's an energy to it for, you know, a couple days maybe leading up, and even maybe a few days after. So that's also like the beauty is that just like kind of what we're talking about with now, even though we were in our eclipse season already, we're seeing and feeling a lot of the inner workings of that now in Gemini. And like, I just a little reminder to the folks, because I just love the moon. I really, really love it. But like, and just the energy that it gives off. And I'm a woman, like, please, women love the moon. Girlies get the moon. But like this idea that the full moon is always like a time to check in on things you always manifested, you know, maybe in your new moon era. This just feels extra loaded. And because of what we're talking about, I'm really going to make a point to have like a check-in with myself. And I really am interested to go back and see like my journal entries for right around these eclipses and what I was really experiencing, even though I don't need to go read it. Like I do think it's really like a lot of that wasn't that long ago. And there's a lot of like personal struggle that affects us all the time. But like specifically, I really encourage listeners to kind of maybe go back and see what you were experiencing during those eclipses, which one more time, Heather, for me and the listeners, but you said it was Aries season.
Yes, it was toward the end of Aries season, I believe, was the Aries solar eclipse. And then we had the Scorpio lunar eclipse, I think 2 weeks after that.
Yes. God, those are both huge.
It was recent. Yeah. It was like mid-April and early May.
Yeah. No wonder I'm like, bitch, we're still processing.
Right.
We're still absorbing feeling. Like those were huge and they were back to back.
Yeah.
During our Saturn return, no less. Come on.
Literally.
Come on.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
All this tells me is Miranda needs some alone time. Just go sit, touch, put those cheeks to the blades of the grass. Oh my God. And fucking, it's just so funny though. When I'm spirally or when I feel like I've got a lot in my head, people are always like, meditate. And I'm like, I can't.
I know.
Because I'm too anxious to.
Actually, the past few days I haven't even been doing it because I've been feeling the same way.
And it's like, I can't, it's that stagnant energy we were kind of talking about too, Heather. And so I've been trying to just like, if I can't sit and calmly like meditate, just go walk outside. Like at least just like being outside with nature. It's the closest thing you can do. And it's just like gets your body literally moving. And then like you're outside and you're smelling it, seeing it, feeling it. Like, yeah, there's really, there's some shit to pay attention to on my end. And personally, I could feel it. And talking to you is like, yeah, shit. You're right, Heather. I think it's just a time to kind of feel some stuff.
Yeah.
Weird. But like, and again, it's air. So when we say feel it, it's probably going to be nice. And we touched on it. But like, we're going back into eclipse mode, you know?
Yeah. I read somewhere that Geminis make like great therapists because they take like a detached, they're just good at, you know, analyzing things. It's that mercurial energy. So it's very good at analyzing, figuring out the source, like figuring shit out in an analytical way. So it's a really good time to like think about your emotions and get to the source of things. I think they don't talk about that enough with Gemini. And then going into Cancer, that's kind of beautiful.
Gorgeous, Heather. Now, before we jump in to these charts, Heather, I would just love to touch on what you just said, just a teensy-weensy bit more about the way that Gemini likes to analyze. I loved what you said about that. Like Gemini being a good therapist because they're able to, like we said, kind of compartmentalize and get things on a view of, I don't know. It's just, it's interesting that Gemini has that ability. And you kind of hit the nail on the head in a way that I wasn't able to articulate because my Gemini moon is moving so fast and thinking so many things.
Yeah.
But when you mentioned like Gemini's kind of like, or the feeling of like, once the process is kind of done, the up, like almost the aerial view of it and being able to see someone else's situation in an aerial view. It's just really, really interesting. It's interesting. And that hit the nail on the head for me. Or you kind of right there is when you said a lot of things I think I'm realizing, like, it's not like anything fresh has happened. Nothing's like, and nothing really is like wrong in life, right, baby? We're cruising.
Exactly.
But like it is, there's been some analytics happening in my mind and brain for sure about some past stuff. It's just, I'm so happy we did this recording today.
I know. It's been
You've
so
changed the weekend
therapeutic,
for
like
me.
more than ever. I know.
The listeners are like, these bitches need to
Get
stop
a room.
talking to
Yeah,
us.
like-
The listeners are like, these girls need to take this to their therapist. And we do, bitch. Relax.
Yeah, trust.
You can do both. Yeah, trust. But yeah, no, that was just, that was really powerful for me.
Yeah, no, I've been feeling the same way. I feel like my brain is just naturally taking my issues and putting them into separate pieces so that I can solve the puzzle. And that's what this time is for.
And it's like, and that's what I'm like, nothing's going on, but it's like Gemini will not be stagnant.
Right. It'll find something to
It's
analyze.
Like, oh, there's nothing going on currently. Let's take a look back at the eclipse section. I said, wait, no, wait, I got
over chapter 1.
Yeah. Let's just do a little review. No, it's beautiful. I do think there's something. So many people I know are like, don't think about it, or like you're stuck in the past, and it's so frustrating sometimes because it's like, I don't think anyone chooses. Well, let me be careful when I say this. Like, I don't know if anyone is outwardly ever choosing to remain stuck in the past, like whether you're aware of it or not, like because it's like but I do find it interesting that it's like the only way you can properly move forward is if you like not properly move forward, but anything you're trying to ignore while you move forward, in my experience, has never gone away.
Mm-hmm.
And they always love to say this, and therapists love to tell you that shit too. And I just, there's a truth to it. And I find a lot of people in my life who are like, move on or just blow forward, are not like, I'm just kind of like, but if I do that, I'm going to be a nightmare. Like, I don't know.
And I think you and I don't want to just, redo the same patterns. It's really about that. It's like moving forward in a new way rather than just on repeat.
Yes. And I think that it's not that we have to remain stuck in the past and like dwelling on something that happened in the past. I think there's a beautiful part of the human experience so that you learn from mistakes, or even not mistakes, you learn from successes too. And it's like, there's certain things you want to take with you as a new plant in your new like bowl, right? Or your new like plant bowl. There are some things you want to keep, like all your really stellar leaves, but you want to cut off the things that aren't working for you, right? Or like just because and it's all from a place of like, I know that that's a part of myself, but like I want to grow also. And I don't think there's ever anything wrong with revisiting something, especially for the sake of process, especially to not repeat a same mistake or what have you. But like, Gemini loves to learn.
Yes.
Well, who better to teach Gemini than Gemini's self, right? Or like, who better to teach you? Like, sometimes we are our best teachers, right? They say that, or like learning from yourself and just teaching yourself. I don't know. It's really this episode has made I literally am like, so much sense for me personally has happened right now.
Yeah, no,
listeners,
this has been so healing.
Are y'all getting anything from this? No, I'm just kidding. So. But like, it is what a wild time. Thank you for just pointing that out real quick, Heather.
I'm glad we touched on that. Yeah.
And with that, should we go ahead and jump into these charts?
Let's.
Please. All right, Heather. This very first Gemini, he's Gemini to the T.
The T.
Which I know a lot of our Gemini so far have been, but again, both of these today could not be more Gemini. Take it away, Heather. Sorry, I don't want to.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I am obsessed with this individual. Had an affinity for him even just growing up as a young child. I like loved his energy. And now as I'm older, I've read his books. I am obsessed with the Bravo network. So very into him. Andy Cohen, I think the most Gemini person. When I think Gemini, I think Andy Cohen. And I will give you the whole spiel. I don't have a lot to dissect in the chart itself. We don't have his time of birth, unfortunately. It does indicate that it's Leo moon, which I think checks out. Leo moon right next to Jupiter, which he just has like there is a performer side to him, even though he really just wants to be like asking people questions, and the curiosity just fucking emanates. But yeah, so Andy Cohen, like always knew that he wanted to interview people, and in a similar way to Judd Apatow, got started he was a super fan of soap operas growing up as a kid, and he was given the opportunity, or he, I think, like created the opportunity to interview this actress from All Our Children. That's a show, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
All
My Children?
All My Children. Yeah, I think that's it.
Whatever.
And then yeah,
All My Wives?
And went to school for like broadcaster at All My Wives.
Sorry. it's like it's
Real
a
Housewives
Mormon,
of
it's
Salt
a
Lake
new
City.
show.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
yeah, and then so he like, started from the bottom, got like an internship with CBS, and then like rose in the ranks. I just asked people a lot of questions like around him. His curiosity like stuck out to the producers. He eventually became a producer, then he got involved with NBC, and then he got involved with Bravo as a just like backstage person, like as a producer on that end.
Wow.
And was just so obsessed with everything that he was doing, and he was also like was one of the people there when Bravo was just first emerging and becoming a network. And they asked him to host the reunion of the first Real Housewives of Orange County. And from there, he's sort of become the face of Bravo.
Yeah.
And he has this late night show, Watch What Happens Live, which I think is not only, in my opinion, the best late night show that exists, but like I also just think it's so incredibly Gemini, the way that show works, because 90% of the time, the guests who are asked to be on it are a fan of Bravo, and they are talking about Bravo things. It is like its own microcosm, its own like universe, and
That's incredible.
this like niche thing. And Andy says that part of why he loved the idea of this show when he first created it was this idea to bring in like two opposite personalities. Like he loves to bring in like different personalities just to like sort of gauge how they're going to get along and what energy that's going to spark. It's all just so fucking Gemini. Also, one of the only, I think, late night shows that's actually live. It's actually live.
Oh, wow. That's sick. I did not know that.
Yeah. And he like gets mad at the guests when they like curse, because he's like, it's actually live. Hello. Like, you know better.
That's so funny.
So yeah, and you can tell that he's just so
chat, and like it's about tea. Like that's so
literally
Gemini.
It's a gossipy, fun, like you can tell that he's always analyzing the psychology of everyone. He's obsessed with the housewives, like actually,
and he's asking questions that you and me would ask and want to know. That like,
yes, he will go there
times. Yes, and I think if he set the precedent that if you come on Andy Cohen's show, like there's no safety in a way that's like, shut the fuck up, as it should be. Like I do think that there is something about late night that gets a little polished and it's like very manicured.
Boring. It's very
artists, I guess, are allowed to come on and not be disrespected, which I get. And I'm not saying Andy's like disrespecting them. I just love that the precedent. I don't think there's any guest on there who would come on who isn't trying to share, like it is just like, I feel like he's really set that precedent of like, oh, by the way, I'm a real interviewer. Yeah. I'm going to ask you like literally what social media would want to ask you.
Yes.
Like, and that makes it so much more fun.
And
right.
Yet
that like down to earthness with it.
I at least don't get the impression that he's like an asshole or he's out to like piss people off. Like I think he's has that genuine curiosity that we all have. Like,
and it's just like, if you don't want to be a part of it, maybe don't come on. I don't know. Like that is how the vibe feels like. And I totally agree. There's been so many times where regular ass interviewers, I felt like were really unprofessional or just really like, God, even the way you're asking that question is so hook and baity that I'm pissed at you now. Like, I don't expect them to give you a real answer because that was such a weird way you just went about asking the thing you want to ask. Like, I hate that shit. I like that Andy is like, okay, so this is what everyone wants to know. Let's just say it. And like, so I'm going to ask you. And like, I just love that is the precedent. Sorry, just want to say that. Like,
no, I
that
totally
authenticity.
Agree. Yes, it is very authentic. And because I read his book, I know that there was like a point, I want to say maybe 5 to 10 years into his run on Watch What Happens Live, where he got feedback that he just didn't seem that enthused. Like he was like losing enthusiasm about his job. And he had this moment where he was like, holy shit, I am literally living my dream life. Like, this is like what I want to be doing more than anything. And like, he said that ever since he got that note, he's been really conscious about like the fact that he loves his job and that like he wants to exude that and that it is authentic. And to me, that's so the Leo moon with the Jupiter. Like I was saying, Jupiter, it's like flaws that it can get a little too lazy, a little too complacent, a little too just like life is good. But so yeah, I think that's cool. And Leo is
who
so
gave him
authentic.
that note? Like fans or like someone from the network?
I wish I could remember. I think it was like a network feedback thing. Like yeah,
maybe something they were hearing from the audience.
Yeah,
whatever,
maybe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But that's why I love watching all the Bravo reunions, but I love watching his show too, because I just feel like it's like a little bit more genuine than most of the stuff out there. I don't know.
Is the show, or are you talking about the specific segment too? A lot of what I see the Andy Cohen like doing, because I don't watch as much like Bravo, Heather, RIP me. But
yeah,
not that I won't start.
It's hard to watch as much as I do. I mean,
I'm just, and I mean that respectfully, you're just on a realm and the way I'm just like, I catch the little tail ends of Bravo. But no, I want to be in it. Like, make no mistake, I'm jealous that I'm not in more of the world and I want to be. I think I'm gonna start watching Love Island, by the way. Anyway,
oh, fun.
I'm like, that's a tangent. But like, I'm like, look at me, Heather. I might give something besides the Kardashians a chance. That shit. Speaking of producers,
oh my God,
celebrities being too involved. Oh my God.
Too manufactured,
way too manicured. The Kardashians are so manicured. So I'm so bored with the new show. Even this, like, their trailers are the most interesting things about the latest series. Like, it's not entertaining. It is, but it's just like, I can't believe this keeps getting greenlit as I continue to watch it.
I know.
But I'm like, literally. I miss the day. I love reality TV when it's not manicured. When it's not, when they're literally, like, I understand what the Kardashian show has become now. And this isn't just a random rich family anymore. Like, they're incredibly famous and even more wealthy than when they started. But like, anyways, Andy Cohen is like
vlog. Yeah.
Keeping the reality there, which keeps it like fun. And it just keeps it, like you said, authentic. But the show where he'll have celebrities on and where they have to do,
they drink it's like
is that what it is? It's kind of like the show where it's like you have to answer this question or you have to eat the nasty thing on James Corden.
Yeah.
But I forget what they have to like do if they don't want to answer the question. Oh, it's like a pass.
Drink.
There's like 1 out of 3 that they are allowed to pass, though, I think. Or something.
Yeah.
I could totally be wrong, but
oh God, what is it called?
Live? I know.
It is live.
I'll look it up. You continue.
Because there's a cute little term for what they call it.
That is what I want to look up. Because that's always the clips I see of him. And he's always asking celebrities what I wish I could ask them.
I know.
I never see normal late night hosts asking in a way that's really refreshing.
Yeah,
and
he'll be like,
bravo. Yeah.
Like, who was the best lay of like your 3 iconic ex-boyfriends? Like, they'll ask like that. Like, it's
that's
like,
so funny.
It's also just so gay in a way.
I think it is Watch What Happens Live is what I'm thinking about.
Oh, no, for sure. I know what you're talking about. I just can't remember what
game.
they call it. Yeah.
I did not know Watch What Happens Live is actually live. That's crazy.
No, literally. And they record several times a week.
Wow.
And there's a drinking game to it. Like within the show, I always like to watch like during happy hour. Like if I'm in my apartment, like preparing to go out, I'll watch What Happens Live and play the drinking game because it's embedded in the show. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Love it.
Plead the fifth.
Plead the fifth. That's what it is. Duh.
So like there's one question you get to plead the fifth on, I think, but the rest so you only get one or whatever.
Right. Right.
It's just fun. And there was like an iconic moment where he asked, like he had Kim and Courtney on, speaking of reality TV, and he's like, Taylor Swift drama. Are you over it? Or is that still like an issue or whatever? And Kim's like, oh, over it. And then he even doubles, which is such a good social media. Or I'm like, yes, Andy's for the fans. And like, or just like, you're getting the real questions and the real answers are out. But like, he's like you two have talked. or like you're over it. Like he specified because he knew we'd all be wondering. And she's like, oh no, like I don't think we need to talk. We're just over it. And then Taylor fucking released Midnight's on her birthday. So it's like, okay, you're not over it.
And
But
he
anyway,
knows. Oh my God,
and
I
like
love
he
it.
does. And like, but even still, that wasn't spidey or mean. And I don't think he's trying to be spidey or mean. He's just like
genuinely
really
curious, I think.
Yes. In his Gemini way, just kind of wants to know. Like,
yeah.
And it's just, I'm like, that lucky bastard gets to be in a position where he gets to know it. I want to know. And people are like, shut the fuck up, bitch. You don't even go here. No, but yeah, it is really like, and now he's like, he is who he is. So he's really rubbing elbows with those people. Like he's in that realm and that world.
Totally.
And it's just so fun to see someone live and well, like in that realm and from that world be like, so what's going on with that? You know,
I know.
It's like I do still feel like Andy's one of us.
No, I that's why I love him so much. And watching the reunions and all the like crazy housewives, and he like literally will like give a face to the camera. Like I'm like, yes, Andy, like you're me right now. Like it's amazing.
So good.
Breath of fresh air.
Truly. Is there anything else about his chart, Heather, that you want to like flag or?
I mostly just wanted to gush over how fucking Gemini he is.
He is. He really is. In all the best ways. Yeah, truly.
But the Leo moon with the Jupiter, I think, brings an optimism, an authenticity, a performer. And
he's so pretty.
He is. He's so cute. I know. And he's a dad now.
I was just about to ask. Like, yeah. And like he gives off that he did like theater growing up, or that he's clearly always like performed in some way. Which is why it's really cool to hear that he was having a producer role and his passion just continued to outweigh and he got to the position he's in now. Like that's
and someone
really
told him that he would probably never be in front of the camera because he has a lazy eye. And in his book, he's like, that's the first time I realized I have a lazy eye. And it was like a moment for him because it's subtle. Like, it's very
Sometimes
subtle.
I think I have one, but my mom does. Like my mom and her, which is so funny that you say that because when I was a kid, I remember someone like a little playmate coming over to play, and like my mom left the room for a second, or wasn't watching us while we were playing with knives or fire or something. And totally kidding, but like out of nowhere, my little friend's like, "What's wrong with your mom's eye?" And I was like, "What's wrong with my mom's eye?" I'm like, "Tim, get back in here. What's going on?" And I literally sat there like, like, what do you mean? I never saw it. I was just always so like used to my mom that I don't see it. But her siblings also all have lazy eyes. It's so funny, or not like they all have eye issues.
Genetic,
and it's like a genetic thing that she got. But her younger sister has a lazy eye. My mom sees perfectly, like she has 20/20 vision, but one of her eyes physically drifts. Like, and so there's two types of lazy eyes. Her sister has a lazy eye, but cannot see well because she has a lazy eye that uses all of its muscle to straighten out and look forward. That's why she can't actually see out of it correctly. So there's two types. Like you can have a lazy eye that just impairs your vision and you don't physically see it because your eye is like, it's like devoting all that muscle to like going straightening forward and focusing. But my mom can see fine. It's just one eye is lazy. And so sometimes I've always been like, like I'm like, it kind of looks like I'm lazy. Like I just like, I'm always like in pictures, I'm always like, I'm gonna get one day. like it's gonna go appear out of nowhere.
Oh my God.
But no, it is. That's so interesting. I did not notice he had one, was my whole point.
Right? It's very subtle.
And when you look at yourself, and no one's ever told you, that's crazy.
Right?
Like,
I know.
Crazy. Aw, poor Andy.
I know. Well, he's fine.
So
he's
they said he was never gonna be on. Yeah. He's in front of the camera.
You watch.
He did it. Lazy eye and all.
That's
incredible.
Yeah. What an inspo.
I need to read Andy's book, I think.
You should. It's fun. I mean, he's just so fun. He just like genuinely loves what he does. Yeah.
Gemini through and through, baby. We love to see it. And then speaking of Geminis, textbook Geminis to their core Geminis, this next celebrity, Heather, also when I saw them on like the famous Geminis, yeah, no shit. Like so fun, came to prominence from a Netflix TV show, one of the first of its kind to drop binge culture into our laps. Orange is the New Black. But Laverne Cox is a Gemini. She's fucking fierce as fuck. She's Gemini through and through. The more I was like reading, but I remember feeling like, I'm kind of surprised Laverne Cox is a Gemini because she exudes sun, or exudes fire. her moon and fire are fire or God, her
Sag,
moon and
right.
rising are fire as fuck.
Right.
And that really checked out for me. But yes, Laverne Cox, real quick, I want to double check her moon and rising because I feel like it is fire, right? I didn't mess that up.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Thank you. Oh yeah, sorry, I lost my little birth chart.
You're
keep
fine.
doing this. I have too many windows up.
Oh, I know.
But she's a Sag moon, Heather, or you said Sag rising?
Sagittarius moon, Leo rising.
Sag moon, Leo rising.
And the Sag moon is in the 5th house, Leo's house.
So real quick, Heather, while you just brought up the houses, Sag is in her Sagittarius is in the 5th house.
Yes.
And the 5th house belongs to Leo.
Yes.
Normally.
Yes. Or it deals with the themes of Leo. You know, some astrologers don't like to look at it that way. To me, the houses reflect the signs, and that's really the easiest way to.
Why don't some astrologers like to look at it that way?
Because I think that they think it's more nuanced than that, which sure, fair. But for a beginner, for someone who's just trying to figure out what the houses are, I mean, they really do reflect the energies of you know, the 1st house represents Aries, the 1st sign, 2nd, like they really do. Like it's a little bit more nuanced, I guess.
Right.
But I think it's the best way to learn. Yeah.
No, that is interesting because for her, I'm like wondering what that has to like feel like and be, because of to have like 2 strong fire placements, but then to have one of them like in the house of another, like no wonder I immediately was kind of surprised she wasn't a fire sign. Like
yeah.
Not that you can always sort of guess these things, but it's like, oh, she's got so much fucking fire. Like it's unbelievable. And like in the way that, in your experience, Heather, do Gemini and fire signs complement each other? Like, I guess
I think so.
Is there really ever such a thing where signs don't complement each other? I feel like all the elements can sort of work in their own way.
It's that thing of, well, Gemini's opposite is Sagittarius. Laverne was born on a full moon. So,
oh my God.
So they're opposites, but they deal with the same thing. I think it's like one of those cases where opposites attract. I think like fire and air do get along very well. I mean, in my experience being an air sign, I gravitate toward fire signs. Right. But yeah, no, I think they do get along, even though it's like technically an opposite energy.
I just no, but that's just really interesting because even like I never really knew of Laverne Cox until Orange is the New Black came out. And it was such a like cultural like reset. Again, I want to say that was the first show that dropped a whole season. Like it was like, I want to say it was the first show that was like Netflix's show.
Yeah.
I want to say it all started with Orange is the New Black. And I remember because I binged it through college, was so obsessed with all of it. And even on Orange is the New Black, like you were having all these like standout actresses, right? But Laverne Cox from the beginning was such a like just a fucking player who came to play. And like to see her career trajectory and just how like what a political activist she is, obviously. Huge for the LGBT plus community, of course, like has gone like above and beyond in a way that just what a beautiful thing. It's really so fun to see where Laverne Cox's like career trajectory has gone, the household name she's sort of become, or like she's really I feel like only gotten more and more famous since Orange is the New Black, right? But like then to also just like again, it's just like it could not be more. She's got that authenticity, but she's like, I'm gonna talk about shit that might be uncomfortable for others because I can't not hold true to my authenticity and my passion. Like she's passionate and like but in a way that's still so poised. And like when I'm passionate, I'm shaky and I'm upset and I may be feeling things.
I know.
Like my passion is like but like I'm envious of anyone who can carry themselves in a way that's like the passion's at the focus and the poisedness, the politeness, the sort of how you like I just like love her. I just love her. And it's really, it was so fun finding out that she's Gemini. So fun finding out how many fire placements she has. It's just really, really interesting. And I feel like looking more at her chart, it's like,
Yeah.
And because there were so many heavy hitters, so many actresses that got famous from that show, but Laverne Cox has like remained.
Right.
And I forget what it was too. Let me double look at the she got an award real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Became the first transgender person to be nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award in acting category, and the first to be nominated for an Emmy Award since composer Angela Morley in 1990.
Wow.
That's crazy. The first transgendered let me read that again. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Becoming the first transgender person to be nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award in an acting category.
Okay.
Wow. That's wild.
That's really cool.
I did not realize she was the first. Sorry. I knew there was something that like I wanted to like read, but yeah. From Orange is the New, from a Netflix show too. Like,
yeah.
What a cultural reset that like Laverne Cox was like a part of. And then also just like, yeah, incredible. So talented, so about her work, but then also like not afraid to fucking talk her shit on the side. Like she's absolutely not going to be someone who does not use her platform for the better. And I just like that could not exude more fire to me. But then the Gemini way of being able to communicate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But then the Gemini way of knowing how to like talk to people so they're not, because I just feel like so many, it's just not that you shouldn't be able to be passionate and angry about things, but I just feel like Laverne understands like being in that industry now, being so prominent in that industry. I just immediately hit the ground running using her platform. Just like, and again, we talked about Gemini and their authenticity, or just like remaining true to themselves. Like, it feels like Andy got to really be around the world, the industry world, before really becoming a respected person in it.
Yeah.
I should have looked more, but I don't know Laverne's like trajectory, like before she started acting in Orange is the New Black. But like, to be someone who wasn't always famous and always in the limelight, but to get a show and then that's such a part of your like platform. That's I just, again, why are we wasting our times with actors and actresses who suck personally? Literally. Anyway, but like, I find that that's really interesting to feel that like Gemini-ness of like, I'm still gonna be me in all this. I can't not be me in an industry that is constantly telling you to change, constantly telling you can't, like Andy with his eye, Laverne being the first transgender woman, right? Like like I like these Geminis out here being like, bet.
Right. Yeah. Like, I'll show you. Yeah.
I love that fighty energy. And again, they both have fire aspects very heavy in their chart, which is like, it shows. You see it. Yeah. I love anyone who can. And we talk about this a lot too, Heather. Like, it's so easy for the entertainment industry to be so mean and to get you down or to make you think you don't have it because you're not as cutthroat or you're not as mean or you're not as business savvy. And it's so refreshing seeing people enter that industry from a place of like, no, I'm going to let y'all kind of change around me.
Yes.
Like, we have enough people entering this industry and changing themselves. Like, we literally all have seen that. We're bored. We're done. Like, no,
which
the
is
industry can start changing with us.
Yeah, which is interesting too, with the knowledge that Gemini is the most adaptable sign, that like part of Gemini, what Gemini is the ability to adapt. It's really interesting that these two individuals kind of forced everyone around them to adapt to what they are in a way.
Yeah. It's not like Andy's doing normal late night. It really is,
literally,
you know, like,
it
or
really
like,
is a novel.
Got to kind of create his own lane within something that was already established. Sorry, just wanted to add that too. But like,
speaks to that Gemini power, man. I mean, what charisma, what just like confidence they carry themselves with.
I want to say Geminis are like, I'm always someone too who's like, oh, I've never done it, so I can't. Or like, oh, that's new and I'll probably fail at it. I feel like Geminis are very, very understanding and excited to fail because it means they're learning something new.
Yes.
They're not staying stagnant, right?
Right.
And if they can find something that makes them, Laverne, Sweets, get your ass on the pod. Andy, Angel Sweets, baby, get your ass on the pod. Both of you Gemini asses. Incredible.
Yes.
Just incredible. Oh, Heather, shall we go ahead and let the folks know what's yet to come in the skies? I know we touched on the moon a little bit.
So middle of June.
Not to put you on the
spot. No, I'm prepared for this. So the big day this week is June 11th. There's a lot going on. So Pluto, which has recently made its way into Aquarius at the start of this year, is now backtracking. It just started retrograding recently, and on June 11th it officially enters Capricorn again. And according to Miss Molly McCord, I like the way that she puts this. So like the retrogrades often, like, well, Pluto's the slowest moving planet, so it's retrograding a few times before it leaves Capricorn forever and goes into Aquarius. So this is the last time that it's going to step back into Capricorn for a moment before finally going back into Aquarius. So if you're able to look at where Capricorn is in your chart and where that threshold between Capricorn and Aquarius is, you'll have an idea of where you're doing like one final cleanup, like one final, we gotta figure out how to get this right before we move into the new energy. And Pluto operates more on a collective level, like more likely on June 11th, and it's so slow. So really just, the month of June, and we'll feel it afterward. But within society too, and on a larger scale, we're probably gonna feel this last cleanup moment. And then also on June 11th, Mercury enters Gemini, which is going to highlight this theme of analyzing and figuring shit out even more communication, even more, things to chat about, things on the table, things to deal with. And then also Venus in Leo is going to form a square to Jupiter in Taurus, which Venus attracts. It's all about what we value, what we're attracted to. Jupiter is about abundance and how we see higher horizons for ourselves. Right. So this is where we can desire something really badly, like we want something just really badly, or we want a lot of something, and we have to be careful not to get too greedy, is what they say. Yeah. So a lot of fun energies. I like that Leo is entering the conversation now. A bit of fire, a bit of fun. Leo likes to connect us with our sense of fun. So
I've been craving that.
Right? I know. And with the Gemini, that's fun too. Because like
Leo
Gemini's
and
already
Gemini
fun.
team up. Yeah.
It's like Andy Cohen and Laverne Cox.
Honestly, that's like, yes, like, again, both just such fun Geminis. Both, and like Gemini, I think, is such a fun sign. It really is. All the signs are fun in their own way, but it was so humbling to be reminded that this isn't, that everything is a balance, and Gemini's got those two faces. And if you want to have more fun in Gemini, you got to do the work, right? Or right. Not to say you got to do the work, but I think a lot of like moving on and feeling closure from something, or not even closure, I don't know if that's what I'm trying to say, but feeling sort of like a sealed energy from something in a way that it doesn't have to like linger over you, comes after you put the time in and the work to heal it, right? And so if there's ever been a reminder of greeting your inner child, being nice to your inner child, taking yourself on some socializing, like again, we talked about socializing with people, new hobbies, but I'm like really looking forward to having some like socializing with Miranda.
I love that.
Talk about what's going on in here, girly pop. Yeah,
I love that.
Beautiful, Heather.
Aww.
Oh, this was just gorgeous.
I
really started off like, oh my God, what
I know,
is the energy?
same.
And now I could not feel more like, like, it's just so nice. Listeners, we hope this was nice for you.
Mm-hmm.
Heather, I love you. You're doing amazing, sweetie. Miranda, I love you. You're doing amazing, sweetie.
Yes.
Let's just keep riding the wave, baby. Ebbs and flows. Don't forget your balance. Hang out with your friends. Have some fun. Leo's on the way. We're gonna have a nice little fiery cleanup. Do some inner work this full moon, y'all. Let's get
it. Hell yeah.
Gorgeous. Infinite abundance. Forever and always. Love you.
you.
Bye.